All right, a good Monday evening to everybody. Chief Meteorologist Hunter Williams here. Wanted to take some time ahead of our 10 o'clock newscast and just walk through the forecast over the next couple of days. Now, I know through the day today we have had some light icing. I've seen icicles hanging from rooftops. I've seen stop signs, road signs that are iced over. I've seen bushes with some icing on them, but we have not had many significant issues with travel. Now, this evening we may be starting to see that change, and then tomorrow morning, especially along and west of I-35, I do think we'll have some icy travel conditions, especially on the elevated roadways. Then the worst of our weather is likely coming in for Tuesday night into early Wednesday. Again, we have a winter storm warning that's in effect through noon on Wednesday, so we're expecting pretty widespread significant icing here. So again, we just want to take some time and go through the forecast with everybody. So what we'll do, I'll take the graphics for you. We'll go through this, and we're streaming now live, so I can see your comments. If anybody has questions, concerns, or anything you'd like me to talk about, any specific locations, feel free to fire away. So this is a live view from our Kalahari Cam in Round Rock. We've seen this many times. When you start to see that glaze and the light refracting off the camera lens there, that means we're starting to get some ice that has developed on the lens there. And for good reason. It is now below freezing. In fact, temperatures continue to drop even below what models have been suggesting. It is now 30 at Camp Mabry, and the airport is down to 31. And as we look at this, not only is the entire metro now below freezing, including 20s from Cedar Park into Laga Vista, but we now have freezing temperatures through nearly the entirety of the KVUE area. LaGrange is at 33, but even LaGrange I could see dropping down below freezing tonight. So again, we need to keep a close eye not just on the I-35 corridor over the next couple of days, but even for areas east of that and southeast. Now, as far as the radar right now, you're not going to see very much that is popping up. Again, you see some speckles of pink there. We'll get zoomed in a little bit closer. This is where there's some slightly steadier freezing rain, freezing drizzle. But let me show you the visibility map. This has been the case all day today where, remember, the radar beam is up aloft, but below that you can still get mist, drizzle, and even fog that develops. And yes, even fog, if temperatures are below freezing, can start to accumulate on things and start causing icing issues. So on the visibility map, as you can see, we have widespread numbers that are reduced, showing some of that mist, drizzle, and fog that has developed. Now, here's a look at our winter weather alerts. Again, for most of us, it is a winter storm warning through noon on Wednesday. The exception being Fayette County, which is under a winter weather advisory. That's the step down below. Now, before we get into the models here, just going to pull up actually a Twitter report that was just sent in to me of what's going on right now across parts of the hill country in Llano County. So let me pull this up for you. I'll take this full. This is what the freezing rain looks like right now in Llano County. This is from Will Leverett, who sent in some pictures of some of that icing developed. You can see it's very fine, but that kind of steady activity overnight with temperatures in the 20s and low 30s, that's going to start to cause some issues, again, especially on the bridges and overpasses. And what Will was saying is they're now starting to see icing on all surfaces. So that includes the roadways, the driveways, the sidewalks. And again, I expect that type of thing is going to start to become a little bit more common overnight and especially into tomorrow morning. So with that being said, let's hop into the models now, and we'll just kind of go hour by hour through this and kind of walk you through when I expect the worst of the weather to develop. And looking at some of the comments here, it looks like snow flurries. I know it does that. This is not snow. That was just kind of what it looked like there in the light. I'm sure that was the camera phone light shining on things. It's very fine mist and drizzle. Just based on the atmospheric profile, the cold air is really shallow. So if you have a big column of cold air that goes high aloft into the atmosphere, that's better for snow. What we have is better for freezing rain, and if anything else, it would probably be sleet and not snow. So here's tomorrow morning. I expect that by tomorrow morning, the precipitation is a little bit more widespread and a little bit steadier, especially along and west of I-35. And at that point, bridges, overpasses, and this will include in the Austin Metro, I think could be a little bit dicey. In fact, Brian's been working on some information across Williamson County where there may already be some flyovers that officials there are monitoring and trying to close down. So that sort of thing, certainly fair game for tomorrow morning. And the deal for tomorrow is the temperature is really just going to hover right around 32 or 31 all day long. I do not think that Austin, or really much of our area, including some areas that are east of I-35, will get above freezing. So we have more precipitation moving through by the afternoon, especially late afternoon on Tuesday. and all of that activity will continue to bring the threat for some icing. Now, the worst of the weather, I expect that this will move in Tuesday night into Wednesday. Okay, so look at this at 3 a.m. early Wednesday morning, and this is brand new high-res data coming in, which is even more aggressive now with some of the ice potential here. So temperatures, even down to LaGrange and Fayette County, are at or below freezing. We have steady and heavier freezing rain that is falling. That will take us into Wednesday morning. This will continue through much of the first half of the day on Wednesday, but by Wednesday afternoon, I think we'll start to get some drier air move in, even into Thursday morning. Now, our winter storm warning, that will end as of now at noon Wednesday. I still think we need to watch things, especially across the hill country, through the morning on Thursday. But for now, it looks like, again, our worst weather is coming in Wednesday morning. We expect significant icing that could cause significant travel issues and even sporadic power outages. So with that being said, I want to go into some of the model projections here. This is what the NAM model is printing out for icing between now and Wednesday afternoon. These numbers likely underdone, but notice the placement. It is showing, again, down to places like LaGrange and Schulenburg and Fayette County, there could be a light glaze of ice and then more significant issues as we expect across the hill country. Now, my forecast based on what I'm seeing in the latest high-resolution models here is higher than that. I think that many areas, including much of the Austin metro, will see 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch of ice accumulation, with some pockets that could be as high as 3/4 of an inch of ice. Now, that is plenty of ice to create significant travel issues, and especially if we start getting up close to 3/4 of an inch of ice, that is enough to cause some issues with power outages. Now, as you go southeast into places like Bastrop and Lee County, now I'll have to watch those numbers. Again, if we keep coming in colder like this, we'll have to drag the area of higher ice accumulation even farther east. But we're looking at 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch, and then down over Fayette County where that winter weather advisory is in effect, that's going to be a glaze up to 1/10 of an inch of ice. But even that, I'll tell you, I've seen 1/10 of an inch of ice cause big travel issues. So ice is not something that you want to take lightly. Let me break this down for you. I want to talk about what the different ranges as far as freezing rain mean, what the impacts are. I know freezing rain is kind of tricky. You know, snow, most of us, we say it's going to snow 1/2 foot. We know what that means. We know what the travel impacts are going to be. Freezing rain's a little bit trickier in that regard. So we put together this graphic for you. This kind of breaks down, you know, what the impacts will be. I think that nearly all of us will be in these kind of top two levels here. 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 inch of ice. So 1/10 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. That's your cars start to get coated. We're already seeing some of that. Bridges, overpasses, elevated roads start to get icy, and you get some thin ice on trees. Again, a lot of that we have already seen today across the hill country. Now, when you start to step up into 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch or so, that's when you get more ice on the trees. They start to sag, some of those tree limbs break, and that's when you start to get into some power outages. Roads become icy. Now, that's not just the elevated surfaces, but you start to get kind of the main thoroughfares and even just the plain old roads that start to get dangerous to travel on, and you get into some power outages. Again, I think that there will be some areas that exceed 1/2 inch of icing. That is where tree damage can be much more widespread. Roads can be incredibly dangerous to just impassable, and widespread power outages will be possible. Again, I don't necessarily think that 1/2 inch plus will be widespread, but I do think there will be pockets, especially the northern I-35 corridor, Williamson County, into parts of Burnett County, Blanco County, even northwestern Travis County, that could be in that range where we start to get into even more significant issues. So that is what we're tracking for you this evening. I will hop over here into the comments and see if anybody has reports here. And by the way, when we get into a winter weather situation like this, your reports are super, super helpful. So if there's anything that you're seeing in your neighborhood that you think is leading to some icing, please let us know. Any of your reports are greatly appreciated. Again, Will Leverett, who lives in Llano County, he's been sending us updates through the day today. He is saying that the freezing rain and mist is starting to get more widespread, and it's starting to accumulate on all surfaces, and that is what we expected through the night tonight. So that is why we think that the travel issues tomorrow will start to get more dicey after not having any issues today. Reading through school cancellations. Folks are asking about the school cancellations. We have an updated blog on that on KVUE.com and on our KVUE app. We also have a crawl that's going as we speak, at the bottom of the TV screen, if you just turn on KVUE, you'll see the school closures scrolling on the bottom of the TV screen. That will be going during our newscast at 10 o'clock as well. Jackson says, I think LaGrange should also be put in the winter storm warning. That is possible, again, based on the fact that temperatures have cooled down a little bit more aggressively and quicker than what models were showing. You know, LaGrange right now is at 32. So you start getting freezing or below. If we start getting more precipitation moving in, even across Fayette County in that winter weather advisory, then you start to get icing issues. So I'm not ruling that out, but again, for now, we think that along and west of the I-35 corridor where the winter storm warnings are issued, that's where we're expecting the biggest issues with travel. But as we mentioned, 1/10 of an inch of ice, which is possible in Fayette County, that is nothing to laugh at there. That can cause some significant issues. Michelle, I'm in Wimberley. Will I be able to drive to Spring Branch by San Antonio by noon on Wednesday? Hate to say it, but again, I think that Wednesday, especially prior to noon, is going to be really, really rough travel-wise, especially here locally. Now for the San Antonio area, let me just kind of push this down. The San Antonio area is now under a winter weather advisory. So earlier they were not included in any of these alerts, but even down to Bexar County and San Antonio, there could be some issues with icing there. Now I think we will have bigger issues here locally. So as you're leaving home, I do not think it will be a good idea to be out on the roads. I said this earlier. We all know how things get here on the roadways when we get winter weather in Texas. The best way to make sure that you are safe when driving in winter weather in the state of Texas is to not drive at all. And that is our recommendation to you, especially now that we've got all these school closures coming in. Hopefully kids are off school. Hopefully you can work from home if you have to work tomorrow. And we're just able to keep folks off the road. Again, we'll take you to a live look. Punch up one of our sky cams here. Let's actually go to the downtown camera. So this is what downtown looks like right now. When you start to see that film over the lens, that is the freezing temperatures. I walked out into the KVUE parking lot before we started this live cast, and I could see on the windshields there, we're starting to see things ice up. And again, we just expect that's going to become more and more widespread overnight into tomorrow morning. David is watching from Pearland. Eric, no need to be anxious about it. Again, we're not saying this to freak anybody out. Far from it. We just want to make sure everybody is prepared. Should we be opening up the water taps a bit? So, yeah, let's talk about this. A lot of folks, especially earlier today, were asking, it's only going to be 32, 30 degrees. Why are we expecting these big issues? You know, back last month, late December, we had temperatures in the teens and single digits across the hill country, and that was an entirely different deal. We needed to drip the pipes then, and it's not a bad idea, especially across the hill country if you're nervous about it, to drip an indoor faucet. But temperatures are not nearly as cold as what we had back in late December. And a lot of folks have been also comparing this to February 2021. Remember, February 2021, it actually started with freezing rain that is relatively comparable to what we have in the forecast, but the difference there was it was much, much colder. It stayed colder for about a week after the freezing rain, and then on top of the ice that fell, we added several inches of snow. So that was just an entirely different ball game. The magnitude of the cold is not really the issue here. The issue is we expect there to be icy roads and travel. And if we start getting into power outages, then we need to focus on that a little bit more. But again, mid-20s, that's about as cold as it's going to get across the hill country. Austin will be hanging out in the low 30s over the next 24 to 36 hours. Okay, guys, I think I'm going to hop off of here. Hopefully got you all the details that you need on the forecast. What we're going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and then our full newscast is coming up at 10 o'clock on KVUE. Again, we're going to do weather, we're going to do traffic, we're going to do all of it. Brian's been in here working on some of the traffic graphics, getting updated on what looks like some road closures over parts of Williamson County. Here's the situation now. We have pockets of freezing rain, and then outside of that, freezing mist and drizzle, which is now widespread, and that is causing icing, which is now kind of expanding onto most surfaces across the hill country. And even for the I-35 corridor in the metro by tomorrow morning, I think we're going to have some icy bridges and overpasses to contend with. So our advice to you, stay off the roads if at all possible. I'm going to leave you with that. We'll have a full update coming up on KVUE News at 10. Meteorologist Shane Hinton and meteorologist Grace Thornton will be in with team coverage tomorrow morning. All the latest on traffic and weather. And KVUE.com and our KVUE app is also up to date. You all have a good night. Stay warm, stay safe, stay off the roads. We'll keep the updates coming for you. Have a good night.